Hello, and welcome to Catholicism in the Car. My name is Parker Zerbal. I listened to an audiobook today, and it was the audiobook of Aristotle's Politics, which was quite fascinating. I also listened to part of his De Anima. This is what I do. When I'm at work, I listen to really nerdy things, either on philosophy or on Catholicism. It just keeps my mind going. A lot of times I'm either drafting up land surveys or writing legal descriptions for things. Usually when I'm doing that, I can't listen to anything. But if I'm doing the more mundane drafting stuff, I can listen to stuff for quite a long time. Definitely don't get as much out of it as I would if I were reading, but it's better than just listening to music. Today I listened to the Politics and also his part of his De Anima. What reflections do I have on the Politics? It was fascinating, especially when he talks about revolutions and the decay of the various types of governmental structures. I'm going to sound a bit apocalyptic here, but I really see almost everything Aristotle talked about in the breakdown of a democracy, and also of in the breakdown of like an oligarchy, because America is kind of both. We're a constitutional democratic republic. So he kind of lists out three positive forms of government, and then he lists out the opposites of those, the three negative forms of government. So the positive forms are, I think it was monarchy, aristocracy, and polity. And then the negative forms of them are tyranny, oligarchy, and democracy. And when he's talking about revolutions, he talks about the three negative forms because of how they are, they lend themselves to decay. And usually that decay comes in the form of some sort of revolution. And him talking about the different, class struggles in this, and, just how, you can tell how much he knew about the history up to his day, the political history, and it just makes you cringe at how much we must have lost, in the minutia of history that, compared to what the writings he would have had on the history previous to his day, compared to the writings we have now of that period. It's kind of sad. It's slightly depressing. If we could have all that info still, oh my goodness, that'd just be amazing. But he talks about how, there is this, oftentimes, in all three forms of this government, when they're going through decay, it generally happens because of unrest of the poor and some sort of a class struggle between the poor and the rich. And he basically says that the antidote for this is the middle class. That if the middle class is the largest class, and that they're not being oppressed in ways that, say, the lower class is, if the middle class is the largest class and they're able to live kind of peacefully, a government structure will stay stable for the most part. But once the middle class starts to either decrease in size or decrease in involvement as compared to the other two classes, that's when decay starts to happen. And usually this decay occurs in the form of revolution. At least when it happens from the bottom up, it's in the form of revolution. And he basically says, if you have a tyranny and revolution happens, generally that tyranny will not be replaced by another one, but will be replaced by either an oligarchy or a democracy. And in the way Aristotle's meaning this, democracy is not a good thing. Like, pure democracy is not a good thing. And I think most people would agree with that. To have a purely democratic state where everything is done based upon vote, it can't work. It's so completely inefficient. And if you say, 51% of people vote for one thing and 49% of people vote for another, you basically have half of the population getting, a bad rap, getting, it's stuck to them. Then you have all the problems of, in a democracy, like who actually is supposed to vote, things of that nature. Who actually is supposed to vote, be able to actually participate in that democracy? Because there are problems. People don't like to talk about this in the present American Western culture, but there are problems when you let everyone participate. Because you end up getting what's happening in America currently, where the vast majority of people are just swayed by what people tell them, and by what certain authorities, whoever they look to, tell them. People, it's never that the majority of people are going to be free thinking. That just doesn't happen. As humans, we're too much of social animals. We put ourselves in groups, and we put other people into groups. Whether that's right or wrong, it's what happens. And when you have people who are, so Aristotle is kind of saying, when you have people who aren't educated, but more importantly, aren't virtuous, being able to participate in like declaring what's best for a society via vote in a democracy, in a pure democracy, that just breeds disaster. Now, I think America, when it was set up, did a lot of really good things with, having the three branches of government and being a representative democracy, a democratic republic where, we elect certain people into office to create laws. We don't generally vote on specific laws. So generally, educated people will be put into those legislative, executive, or judicial positions. Although, just because they're educated doesn't mean that they're virtuous. And Aristotle acknowledges, like, it's going to be pretty rare basically impossible that you're going to get, like, a whole bunch of virtuous people running a state. He also says, it would also be extremely unlikely for there to be, like, the philosopher king, like what Plato talks about in his Republic as the ideal form of government. When a philosopher king, a just, virtuous philosopher king would rule, that would be the best form of government. And I would agree with Plato, honestly. That would be the best form of government, because it would be extremely efficient, and it would be virtuous. Now, however you define virtue, that doesn't matter. But yeah, it was just fascinating. I want to go back to the politics, and particularly that part about revolutions, and really kind of lay out what he's talking about there in a lot more detail. Because just by listening to it, you only catch probably really internalize like less than 50% max, I would say. At least I do. Maybe other people are much smarter than me. Probably lots of other people are much smarter than me. So anyway, all right. Hope that helps. Thanks. Oh, real quick, please feel free to subscribe to any of my podcasts on any of the podcast players. Find me on YouTube. Please subscribe on YouTube if you enjoy this content. Like me on Facebook, like the Catholicism in the Car channel on Facebook. Twitter, Instagram, we're all there. Catholicism in the Car. Find us. Let's see. And then I also have a Patreon account if you wish to support what I do at this podcast and this YouTube channel. And then you can also support us on anchor.fm. There's a support button there you can click on. I also have links to all this on my website's support page at www.catholicisminthecar.com. Thanks. God bless. Bye.